Hey everyone, welcome back. We always talk about living a purposeful life here, and today we're going to dive into something that's, well, kind of at the heart of it, right?
Definitely.
Using our gifts, all those unique talents and skills we have. Like, what are they for?
Big question.
Huge. So to help us unpack this, we're turning to Emmanuel Afiawari's devotional. It's called Work Your Gifts, part of the Inspire Devotionals series. And he uses this really interesting story from the Bible about a guy named Bezaleel. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Bezaleel, he's quite a character.
But like not a household name, right?
Maybe not for everyone, but for those who know.
Okay, so fill us in. Who was this Bezaleel guy, and why should we care about him thousands of years later?
Right. So we're in the Old Testament, Exodus chapter 31. The Israelites have just, escaped Egypt. They're wandering in the desert. And God's given Moses instructions to build the tabernacle.
The tabernacle, like their portable place of worship.
Exactly. This sacred space where, God's presence would dwell among them. Pretty important stuff.
Yeah, no pressure on the construction crew.
Seriously. And that's what Bezaleel comes in. God specifically chooses him to lead the whole design and building process.
Wait, so God handpicked this guy. Out of everyone, there had to be other builders, right?
I'm sure there were, but God calls out Bezaleel by name and then goes on to describe all these amazing skills he has. It's not just that he can build stuff, it's that he's uniquely qualified for this task.
Okay, that's got to be good for the resume. Handpicked by God.
Right. But seriously, the text lists his abilities. Wisdom, understanding, knowledge of all kinds of crafts. God filled him with his spirit, enabled him to work with all sorts of materials: gold, silver, bronze, wood, even fabrics.
Wow, that's a lot of talent.
He was an artist, a craftsman, an architect, all rolled into one. It was all divinely inspired.
So it's like he wasn't just good at this stuff, it was his purpose.
Yeah.
God had this specific plan for him.
Exactly. And that's what makes the story so relevant for us today. It's not just about Bezaleel building a tent. It's about God giving us each unique gifts and abilities for a reason.
So if we're feeling lost or uncertain about our path, we can look to Bezaleel's story and be encouraged, right?
Absolutely.
That even amidst the desert and starting over from scratch, God still has a blueprint. He still equips us for the task at hand.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. And the devotional even highlights this idea that even if Bezaleel had moments of doubt or uncertainty, which, let's face it, who wouldn't, building something that monumental,
Right.
he was still empowered by God to overcome those doubts.
Because he knew he was called to this.
Exactly.
That's such a good point, because it's easy to get bogged down in am I good enough? But if it's God's plan, it's he's not going to set us up for failure.
Right. He provides the skills, the guidance, the resources, the whole 9 yards. And this is where Afiawari gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't let us off the hook, does he?
Yeah. Nope. Having the potential is one thing.
But actually using it.
That's the key.
Yeah, the devotional quotes that line from Zechariah, right?
Yeah.
The hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this house. His hands shall also finish it. But then Afiawari says, hold on. It's not enough to just stick your name in there like a Mad Libs or something.
Right. It's not about wishful thinking. It's about taking action. Bezaleel didn't just sit around waiting for inspiration to strike. He rolled up his sleeves and got to work.
And following God's instructions precisely, right? It wasn't just winging it.
Exactly. There's a blueprint, a divine plan, and Bezaleel had the humility and dedication to follow it. And that's where the real beauty comes in, because when we align ourselves with God's purpose for our lives, it's like things just click.
Effortlessly almost,
Yeah.
right? Because it's what we were made for.
It's like a dance.
Totally.
And the devotional uses this analogy of the anointing, right? The divine blessing.
Yeah, that's powerful.
But it's not going to do the work for you. You still have to put in the effort. It's
Yeah.
imagine you're a musician. You have this raw talent, but you never practice. You never push yourself.
It'd be such a waste, right?
Exactly. And that's what can happen with our gifts. If we don't develop them, if we don't use them, they can actually become a source of frustration. Why do I even have this talent if I'm not doing anything with it?
Right. Like a burden almost.
Exactly. But when we put in the work, when we dedicate ourselves to mastering our craft, then our gifts become a source of joy, of fulfillment. And that's where we see that true excellence, that effortless flow that comes from really honing your skills.
And that's what Bezaleel was all about, right? That attention to detail, that striving for perfection in the tabernacle. It wasn't just a building. It was a work of art.
Exactly. And it was a testament to his dedication and to God's glory.
So powerful. It's like, what if we all approached our work, our talents, whatever we do, with that same level of intentionality and purpose? Like,
Yeah.
what could we accomplish?
That's the question, isn't it? What kind of world could we create if we all embraced our gifts and used them to their fullest potential?
And that's really the challenge, isn't it? Because it's one thing to be inspired by Bezaliel's story, but it's another to actually, like, put it into practice in our own lives. Like,
Yeah.
where do we even begin?
That's the exciting part, right? It's a journey of discovery. It's about exploring your interests, trying new things, maybe even failing a few times along the way. Bezalel didn't become a master craftsman overnight. It took time, dedication, probably a few messed up pieces of bronze along the way, right?
Probably.
But the point is, he kept going, he kept learning, he kept striving to improve. And I think that's the message we can all take away from this deep dive. It's not about being perfect, it's about being willing to show up, to put in the effort, to use the gifts God has given us to make a difference in the world.
Such a good reminder. And, as I was thinking about this, it made me wonder, like,
Mm.
what would a modern-day tabernacle look like?
Oh, that's a good question.
Right. What incredible creations are just waiting to be built using all the unique talents and skills people have right now?
Hmm.
And it's like, it might not be a physical building, but it could be a movement, a piece of art, a new technology. Like, the possibilities are endless.
They really are.
So yeah, I think that's what I want our listeners to walk away with today. Don't just listen to this and move on. Go out there and do something. Make something amazing. Build your own tabernacle, whatever that looks like for you. Because the world needs your gifts.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next time.